This video is brought to you by BuddySpoiler. If you'd like to support the leading news database for the English Buddy Fight community, be sure to go check out our Patreon, throw us $1, and maybe we can get our deck builder system up earlier for you guys. With that said, let's get into the video. It has been too long. It's been like 2 days since the podcast came out. It's been a couple days since I started doing content here, and I haven't made a video shit-talking a bad card that people are freaking out about. I mean, come on, there's so many. I have never, ever been wrong about a card being bad before. It doesn't happen. I'm always right. I'm always right. So today we're talking about the Bearer of Great Overturn, the big bots card coming out of Driven to Disorder. This is Turbulent Warlord Dragon Barlbatzz Dragoroyale. There's a big freak out over this card. Well, actually, it's Overthrow. It's not Great Overturn. It's Overthrow. It's the official keyword name. So this is the dude. This is the guy. Everyone's freaking out about him. He's got infinite power. He can attack 6 times. He can't be rested. He can't be destroyed. His abilities can't be nullified. What the heck are we gonna do about this? Well, the thing with Barlbatzz Dragoroyale is that he directly goes against how the deck plays right into many of the defensive methods that are out in the game right now. And its damage output is just worse than what Thunder Empire has right now. It's just straight worse than the big bots overturn play that you have access to right now within Thunder Empire, which is, of course, Corpse Eater. So let's break things down. So this thing is getting out 12 damage across 6 packets. However, because it's a size 3, that means your typical size 1 tools aren't going to be accessible for you. The damage outside, like, all of your damage is going to be coming from bots. You can't really rely on anything else to be giving you good damage. And its cost isn't anything to just snort at either, because, like, there's a potential size 3 Thunder Empire deck going around from all the support from Dual Chest and Climax especially. But this guy can't really fit into that because of his call cost, which requires you to kill a bots. There are no size 3 bots besides this that really fit in. The closest you've got is this promo Angry Bots SD, which is a size 1, so it's useless if you already have a size 3 on the board. But when enters the field, if there's another Thunder Empire monster, so you're going to need another size 0 on the board for him to even go off. You gauge 2 and gain 1 life. So it doesn't... That's the best you've got. That's a promo that we aren't even 100% sure we're going to get in English anytime soon. So, you know, things aren't looking the greatest for Mr. Barlbatzz Dragoroyale here. Now, if you get that off, then you can pay 3 gauge, give him Sex 2-pool attack, which will allow him to attack 6 times, and you have to discard a card as well. I actually completely forgot that you have to discard a card. Like, in all of my rantings about this card on Discords and Twitter, I've actually every single time forgotten that he even has a discard cost. But he has a discard cost, which makes it even worse. But anyways, so that costs 3 gauge. You probably paid like 1 or 2 gauge for most other bosses if you're just throwing this into normal Thunder Empire or whatever. So that's like a big 4 or 5 gauge cost, which Thunder Empire can pretty easily deal with. But the thing is that Overthrow play is just going to be worse than Corpse Leader. So Corpse Leader is what the big push play that Thunder Empire decks are revolving around currently. And he's 2 gauge, he gets a natural triple attack, and for a discard, he gets critical +1 for the turn for each different world name of cards in your drop zone. That's his overturn, of course. Very infrequently will you have any less than 4 worlds in your drop zone, especially because of cards like Miseria. So it's very easy to just stack up that 4 worlds, and then you're hitting for 6 crit with each swing. That's going to be 18 damage without any other buffs. Dragoroyale, on the other hand, base damage is going to be 12. And yeah, obviously that's already a good third lower than Corpse Leader. And Corpse Leader is a size 2 and doesn't have any asinine call costs that you have to deal with. Of course, it doesn't have the abilities cannot be nullified by your opponent's effect or the anti-rest effect. It lacks those, but the simplicity of the card outweigh the value of that by far. There's also the fact that Barlbatzz Dragoroyale has to activate his Overthrow at the beginning of your attack phase. So, a lot of the strength from Corpse Leader comes from the fact that you can do it at any time during your turn. Does not matter when during your turn you're declaring that overturn, but Dragoroyale's Overthrow has to be done at the beginning of your attack phase. What this means is that you can very easily run into a situation like against Star Dragon World, against or against Legend World, which are both going to have multiple viable decks each going into the Driven format. If either of these drops their attack phase ender against you, then, well, you just wasted 3 gauge and a card out of a hand, as well as your Overthrow usage. Your only Overthrow usage for the game. Against Aldo Athora, that means you're investing into that 6 attacks, which is going to equal 6 burn damage if they have Aldo Athora out. So obviously you cannot risk doing that. That timing just really, really ruins the card. There's stuff like Drago Trap that can then go before you even get your first attack. Your Overthrow is wasted. There's the damage reducer things that just reduce the damage for the rest of the turn, including attack damage. There's none that exist right now that like declare, but whatever. Ganmarl can come down, reduced by 3, and like it's not even that unexpected that you might be able to just defend against this normally with just normal shields. Now, of course, you can potentially buff this guy just like you can with Corpse Leader. And there are some cards around that also people are freaking about, but also exist as buffs to this card. Okay, so first up from the secret pack, we have a supporting size 0, Cross Junior, which allows you to discard a card to add a copy of Barlbatzz Dragoroyale to your hand from your deck. That's pretty decent. That gives you consistency for the deck, but it's real telling that because of its asinine call cost, yeah, you need this consistency or the deck is just not going to work ever. Then we've got X Junior. This is the big one that people have been flipping their shit about, which they really shouldn't. So this is X Junior 2/1/2, and all your bots cards get penetrate and cannot be returned to hand by your opponent's card effects. Now, if you're honestly freaking out about this card, you have not been paying attention to what Thunder Empire has, because this is on a size 0 body, which can very easily be popped by a lot of things. Like, tons of decks have access to the ability to pop that off. However, both of those tools already exist, able to be given to non-bots Thunder Empire cards as well, in packages that are much harder to disrupt. For Penetrate, we've got from the Thunder Empire trial deck, the Thunder Emperor Fangs trial deck, which is a 5/2 weapon, 1 gauge, 1 knife, and when it attacks, any monster or item on your field gets Penetrate for the turn. Easy. You easily give Penetrate to any bots or anything else you want to give it to. That's not a big deal. That's not a big deal for that size 0 to be giving. And then, of course, we have the infamous Black Sand Castle, which is Darkness Dragon World set. All Thunder Empire on your field, including itself, cannot be bounced, and has the counteract ability to, during your opponent's turn, pop itself if there are 2 more world names on your field to reduce the damage by 3. Act as a shield. So we have 2 separate cards on harder to deal with packages that give both of the benefits of X Junior. Of course, since I brought up the crit reduction, Supreme Crimson Thunderbreak is also going to be brought up. This is one of the last cards from the secret pack. The other card is irrelevant to this discussion because it's not any direct buff to bots. So you may only cast this if you have a boss monster on your field. You choose a Thunder Empire on your field. For this turn, the chosen card's critical cannot be reduced, and when that card attacks, destroy a card on your opponent's field. Now, this card isn't bad, but you're simply not always going to have this. Toolboxing for spells isn't really something that Thunder Empire has good access to. The fact that it requires bots can make it a dead draw. The card destruction is something that could be valuable, and even if your opponent plays critical reduction in response to this, it won't stop it. But I don't think this makes Barlbatzz Dragoroyale some unstoppable force, because you have to get a lot of combo pieces off already, and adding another one onto that doesn't really fix it. And yeah, I don't see this breaking the card, guys. It's fine. The strongest thing about this card, to be honest, is the fact that it's destruction via spell effect. So that's pretty nifty. But honestly, when it comes to field nukes, they've already got Roaring Blast, and that gives them a draw for everything they destroy. So that's a whole thing. Against Chaos, this card isn't going to be very good, and that's the matchup that you're going to have to be the most concerned about. So I don't see this card as something to freak out about. Like, sorry, but this is not something to be flipping out about. So earlier we mentioned the potential to buff Dragoroyale's critical. So let's get into what cards we have access to that can actually do that. Because another unfortunate thing about Dragoroyale is the fact that it loses access to your best crit buff, Globes. Globes is obviously your best crit buff because it gives you that gauge and draw and also lets you buff that crit. But since Globes is a size 1, it obviously cannot be used in tandem with Dragoroyale. So that's one monster that can be used with Corpse Leader that cannot be used with Dragoroyale. And that's using our base example of 4 different world names. That's buffing that's buffing Corpse Leader up to a damage output of 24. 24. Corpse Leader is a monster. We've got the Legend World item from the Dual Chest, which on attack can buff a monster by 1 crit. That is definitely a thing you can use. There's also a Dragon World item from the original Trial deck that can do the same thing. We've also got Thunderblade Joker. You wouldn't really use this card unless you were building completely around Dragoroyale, and in that case, if you run into any of the counters that can really mess this guy up, well, Thunderblade Joker isn't going to help you. Like, if you're building that far around it, you better be set to lose real hard, because there are all those ways to just shut him down, regardless of Crimson Thunderbreak, regardless of Barlbatzz Dragoroyale's built-in protections. What else do we have for crit buffs? The only other thing is Boss SD, and that is not realistic to be getting off. Like, Boss SD is in no way something that you should be running with this card, because to get that off, you need to have Boss SD, another boss on the field, and then whatever other combo pieces you need to make your whole thing work. Like, and if you're facing Black Dragons, of course, you can't even use Boss SD. So, word to the wise, don't do that. It's not very good. Barlbatzz Dragoroyale is not a very good card. Like, I say that, and I'm fully prepared to be, like, at least partially wrong, because, the fact that Overthrow doesn't count as Overturn, like, you can use Overturn and use Overthrow in the same game, that is something that does have power. And it could potentially see play just because of that, but it is not something to panic about. this card will probably only see niche play at best. If we see a better overthrow in the trump cards of X2 BT01, then maybe freak out then, but I don't see a point of freaking out over Barlbatzz Dragoroyale. It's just not a big deal. It is not the end of the world. Thunder Empire did not become more broken than it already is. In fact, to be honest, out of Driven, Thunder Empire got basically nothing. Like, the new Dragonbolt spell that's based on different world names in drop is pretty decent. That gives them some decent recursion and resource increasing, but they already had tons of that. So, you know, I'm, yeah, I don't know. Fortunately, the retrieval effect is only 3 or more different world names. But, you know, besides that, I can't really see a whole lot of great Thunder Empire buffs out of this set. And, yeah, Dragoroyale definitely is not something to be panicking about, guys. Chill out.